Hey guys, it's Adam Bieber from the Logic Speak podcast, and today we're going to see part 2 of the LinkedIn Live that we did recently with Don Morrow from Highland Tech. We hope that you enjoy the rest of this conversation and tune back in next week for another special episode of the Logic Speak podcast. Enjoy.
Now we fall back into the human taste and intuition.
Yeah.
The unmeasurable, but the measurable. It's unmeasurable maybe to AI, but it's measurable to people, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. Like, I relate this a little bit to movies, and I think about movies that are just like epic and timeless. And it's like the way that they were able to do that without the Lord of the Rings, like unbelievable movie. And the amount of technology they had in the late 90s when they were shooting those versus what's available today visually, and probably just in terms of like stunts and things that they were able to do. They could have done so much more today.
Right.
But there's an adoration and respect for what they accomplished, what Peter Jackson did to make those movies as amazing as they are, the scope that they were able, and knowing that like this was human vision. And so I even think with like art and writing and some of those things, like, yeah, you might stumble upon some goofy AI generated art, but yet we're still going to have this desire to like know, oh, this is human creativity.
Yeah, people forget, I think, a lot. Because I'm in the AI space does not mean I'm some machinist on one end. And I'm like, I'm rooting for robots. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm also not a humanist side, because honestly, working with people can be very difficult too, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm somewhere in the middle of being, like I say, a pragmatist to say, like, what's the right application for certain situations? Is it human, or maybe is it this technology, which has nothing to do with AI? It could just be like automation, or it could just be like a software application, you know? I don't know. Right. It could be our cell phones. Like, for example, I don't use maps anymore and depend on myself. I have Google Maps that tells me where to go. Right. So I chose in my micro decision during that day, I'm going to use technology because I myself would get lost.
Yep.
So I'm not depending on myself.
Yep.
But yeah, I think what I think about a lot is that people and this is what AI is showing, are a lot more complex and valuable than what the world is giving them credit for. So like, there's actually a website that goes over the amount of neurons across living organisms. And and they would suggest, based on the number of neuron connections, would be how smart you are or capable, right? Humans are obviously up at the top with like orcas and, I don't know, maybe octopuses or somewhere around there, right? Really intelligent creatures that are here on the planet. Okay, cool. Where they're at they're trying to actually mimic that as like new waves of AI technology, where they're trying to mimic neurons. Where they're at right now is a fruit fly, which has maybe like 150,000 neurons, but we have like,
and like a 7-minute lifespan.
Right. And they're like, look, you know, but still, I mean, what it's showing is the potential. But what I think it's also showing is that we are incredibly efficient. And I read something a while ago, and I'm not going to try to quote it, but because it was too long ago, but it's on the same note that like the efficiency of the human brain is unlike any supercomputer in the world.
Sure.
So God had created some pretty awesome creatures here, right? Yep. And I think what I'd never want to get missed in this is the incredible capabilities of what humans. I mean, I watch a lot of times, I'll see Red Bull TV and see what humans are capable of doing. I know this is unrelated to AI, but I want to bring it back to the fact that I appreciate what people are doing, but, and I think it's also, maybe that's a question for leadership in companies, you know, that to say maybe people would perform or would be more consistent if there was better processes they understood, or tools that they had, or better just sheer leadership. So it's not all people's fault, is what I'm saying, of why, you know, people aren't maybe good at work or don't want to come to work being their best. Sure. So there's other things going on with that. But my point is, like, to side note that AI is trying to replicate what people are doing, and people will allow that to happen over time as they work with them, because they're collecting a lot of the data. And so in some cases, people are kind of writing themselves out of a job, right? Yeah. But I think going back into the human taste, and this is probably our elongated one question that we've had podcast, that that's a great place to be, you know? And so I think we're in that space too, with whatever we're doing when we're working with community, and we're thinking about like, how can we reach the hearts and minds of people? That's not necessarily like a required on technology thing. We started these things not because we're making money, but because we want to help our community. And we do that by way of just showing them what's available to them so they can raise their IQ points, but also reminders that, hey, there's this taste and intuition side that if you've got that, or where you can continue to invest into that, you've got a leg up.
So much of one of my favorite things that has stuck with me, and I've shared it with others. When you and I did that live session at the chamber, you made the comment like, we were not designed to be head down looking at a keyboard, making keystrokes and making stuff happen. And if we can involve artificial intelligence to help us look up and look out at the people around us, then it's a benefit and it's worth it. And it's like, it's not an attempt to replace humanity. It's an attempt to help us return to humanity, which I think is really cool.
Listen, there's a lot of altruistics here, and even big tech in Silicon Valley will tell you that. I know there's some real downsides, but I like the idea that it can do that. I'll give you an example. So I use Whisper, which is a voice to text tool. It's free for a certain amount, but I constantly run out of credits. So I probably need to upgrade.
Well, we use Plod. I don't know if you've got on Plod. We're big on it here.
That's perfect. Yeah, just anything. Well, what it does is, I don't know if Plod does that for you, but what mine does is any text input I can talk into, no matter what the website is. So I literally press a button on my keyboard. It'll transcribe it, but clean it up. So I can just kind of word vomit or put some thought to plate and send it into ChatGPT if I want to. ChatGPT has one too. Yeah. UHISPR, something like that. Whisper Flow. And we use that in some of the products that we have too, as a way to bridge that gap of not having to sit there and type.
Sure.
So the input is changing, but all the other things don't change, right? As far as getting your ideas across, being creative, have taste, intuition, know how to solve problems, all that still remains. But yeah, I never want to get it twisted in the sense of like, this stuff, we want it to make people better, open up new opportunities for people. But at the same time, there's a sense where that's the other side of the spectrum, right? We talk about the other side is like that there's no question this stuff is accelerating at a pace that people cannot keep up with, even right now, much less how it continues to improve. And so what that means is it could be improving at a rate that's making some big changes that we don't even understand yet.
Yeah.
And so there's this really big black box that maybe 5 companies seem like they have access to, the rest of us that don't, that we just kind of have to wait and see. I heard something from Silicon Valley, went there about 2 years ago, where they were talking about software that would just adapt. It was dynamic to the user. So typical software systems, they have a dashboard, and you can probably take off one dashboard or the other. But what they were basically describing was this adaptive software that based on how you use the user, the dashboard will just adapt to your use case.
Wow.
So we might see that come maybe later this year, maybe next year. But if you're plugged in the Silicon Valley community, you can kind of get a sense of what's happening. But what about the rest of us? That's not Silicon Valley. What else are they working on that we need to know about, and how that's going to change our company? So that's why for me, doing this full time is the only way I can maintain a sense of perspective, because otherwise it's like any other job I would have, I would be focused on doing that, and instead of, reading up on, this, listening to podcasts, going into the AI communities and trying to get a sense of like, where's the puck going here, man?
Yeah.
Because the puck direction seems to change or slows down, or it keeps speeding up.
It keeps speeding up, and like it's so easy to fall behind and just not have up-to-date data or relevance. Like you could get on a plane, and by the time the plane lands, major changes happened. And unless you're tapped into that network, or you have the right social feeds and the right news outlets and the right, groups that you're a part of, you can miss a whole lot. I don't have social media other than LinkedIn. I miss a ton. Like people will ask me, oh, did you see about this? Did you hear about that? And I'm not talking about technology. I'm just saying in general, like pop culture. I miss stuff all the time. And that stuff does not move nearly as fast as this technology evolution that we're sitting in.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't get any slower. It's not going to get any slower,
No.
but I think it's, I was actually listening to this morning. I was reminded, and I talked about that particle thing right earlier, which is probably sounds weird, but like there was a hype that came out with the OpenClaw thing, which is this agent operating system that people are paying attention to right now.
Yep.
And I say hype because there are experts in the industry that are saying that framework will just get consumed by the model companies. And what they put out is basically people testing these ideas and running through their frameworks when they eventually just roll it up into the thing for $30 a month or something.
Yeah.
So there's experts that are saying like, so basically what I'm saying is what we see today that we think is like, oh, it's the latest news. Did you hear about that? it could just be a part of the plan to say what you see now is just a way to test the market with what they're working on that eventually they will continue to own, and it's kind of wild to think about it. So what I'm saying is you see something, you want to jump to it, but then you realize that by the time you're even at the point of jumping to it, you're already behind. So even though you think you're on top of it because it's new and it came out, for example, Anthropic came out with a model that model in preview called Mythos. You guys probably should hear about this if not already at LogicSpeed. So Mythos is a new model that is like incredibly more intelligent than their most intelligent model. And really they were just trying to build a great, coding model. And what they found is it was incredibly good at cybersecurity.
Oh, wow.
What they found out in their preview testing, because now they won't even release it to the public because it's too dangerous. They're giving it to like the Ciscos and like the different cybersecurity companies in the world, Palo Alto, and saying, hey, we want you to, go through this, because here's what they found. They found that this model was capable of doing thousands of 0-day attacks if they just would release it. They could show, so in some of the most well-known software platforms,
it's a cyber weapon.
Browsers.
Yep.
Okay. So that's a problem, right? That means that there's something that Anthropic or one of these big tech companies own that deems all applications unsecure, which is like, I didn't think that would come until quantum physics. Computing would be more commercialized, because that's really what it just hacks and removes any value in cryptography. It doesn't matter what your password is; it'll just find a way to get through it, because it's paradoxical in nature. It can figure out any variable password ever, right? So then now we're in real machine wars. But what I'm saying with this model, it exists. It's in preview. They've been working on this for a while. They didn't think it was going to do that, or did they?
Yeah.
So
or
we
did
don't
they
know.
Just create a weapon that they're...
Well, and actually they ran into, and this is sidebar, but they ran into an issue with the government, with Trump, I think, because they weren't willing to meet them with whatever requirements they had. And there was some suspicion they were trying to make autonomous weapons, and OpenAI kind of released that. But then OpenAI, as a result, with the company that makes ChatGPT, they was the ones that they lost a ton of users by that way. So Anthropic maintained its trust, but then now is in the crap bed with the U.S. government, which is not a place you want to be at any American company.
Yep.
So yeah.
So interesting. Okay, I want to do a couple things because we're getting ready to land the plane here and hop off. I want to get really simple. I love the philosophical, trying to imagine what's coming and what's next. Hopefully what people are getting out of this is like, you can't join a 1-hour webinar or listen to a podcast and be equipped. Like, it's an ongoing conversation, and the best thing you can do is just stay a learner. Like, continuously seek wisdom, seek counsel, seek advice, seek knowledge, and that's how you can continue to stay relevant through this. So, but there's folks of all backgrounds that are going to stumble upon this, listen to this, maybe come to our event. So I'm coming way down from the clouds and getting super simple. How can someone improve and get better at prompting an AI assistant like ChatGPT or Copilot? Or
they can ask the AI assistant how to prompt.
Help me prompt better. Like, give me an example.
They just talk to it and say, here's my objective. This is what I want to do. Or don't say, create a prompt structure that fits your model. And here's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Oh, wow.
And it'll just give you the prompt.
And then it's like a mad gab. You just add the noun and the thing.
It'll structure it for you. Yeah, it'll tell you, give you the role. Everybody's trying to do which is kind of annoying to me. Like, here's the latest prompt structure. And it's not that there's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is like that amount of, when we build agents, there's a lot more than prompting, scaffolding that goes involved, right? So for the simple user, right, just ask the model. It'll tell you. Now my advice is to not use the free ones, because the free ones, that won't give you their best stuff, right? So if you're using an old model and it's free, you ask it what prompt I should do, and maybe it doesn't give you the latest information. Because these models aren't they're not grounded in the latest information unless you instruct it to do that. Basically press like the web browser or something where it can do that, right? And so in any case, that's what I would say. I mean, because the prompting instructions are going to adjust over time, and it would adjust based on your use case. So all you would need to do is, instead of just alternatively just saying what you want, you could say, draft me a prompt that best works for your model version, and here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And then take it and then dump it right back in. You could make it into like a custom GBT or Google Gems, or these are basically things that can take your prompt once and then you can keep using it. So you don't have to keep prompting it for the same thing.
That's really cool.
Not everyday use cases need a prompt, by the way, but if they want to keep using it for the same use case, then they would just create these like mini agents. It's free for people and would use that prompt structure.
Yeah, it's interesting because I use it a lot. Like I'll take content that we've written,
right,
and then I'll use it to like help create outlines for podcasts.
Yep.
Or I'll take the transcript of the conversation that we have and then say, help me with a YouTube SEO friendly title and description that's true to who we are. And because I've done that so many times and it's kind of trained on our look and feel and our sound,
right,
it does a really good job at spitting out title suggestions, description suggestions. I edit, reformat some things, but it's helping me get more efficient at just being able to churn out content that's ours. I mean, it's literally the transcription of a podcast. It's just so neat. I think I joke around here just because I'm not the most technical person in the building. We've got engineers that are really, really smart, that are serving our clients and whatnot. And I wondered because, everybody kind of speculates on like, what are some of the AI roles that are going to be entering the workforce? Will there be a chief AI officer, CAIO? Will there be AI managers that all they do is oversee teams and hundreds of agents and facilitate and make sure that things are getting done? Like we're just speculate, but I go back to the prompting and I'm like, well, I'm a senior prompt engineer. Like I can prompt the heck out of my ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like you can also use the AI assistant to help you get better at prompting itself.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll add to mine that maybe still the novice users can still use. If it writes the prompt and you're getting adverse results, you can obviously adjust it as you see the need. But one of the things that they call it in fine tuning, which is just you continue to train your assistant to get the output you want. It's not the agent side. We're just talking about the assistant side, is that you do something called shot prompting, or basically examples. So the more shots, they call multi-shot prompting, the more it will get your output correct. So meaning you can prompt it, but you got to give it examples, right? So it's just like a person. This is so intuitive. They made it that way. So intuitiveness would say, if I have an intern, that's what they are. Think of them as just interns that don't know anything, and say, hey, I got an assignment for you. Here's the assignment, but I'm going to give you specific examples of how I want the output.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a much better job. Now, as far as like prompt engineering, I will say on the prompt engineering, on the internal roles, I think a sheer prompt engineer, prompting person is more useful at larger companies because they can afford to have someone that just maybe focuses on that. But what's more useful, I think, is, and something we're looking at, is having like an embedded AI engineer in a company that can not only build workflows, but that obviously can do the prompting, that can do the full, scaffolding, fine tune, all these things that make these things work. Right. And I think that's a better role for most companies, because just a sheer prompt person everybody's a prompt person. Basically at some point.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. It's a fun place to spend time learning and growing. I think just for the average listener that's jumping in, that wants to take a step toward technology and be aware of what's going on. I think really just look for some small way that you can adopt a little bit of AI into your life. Because like you said, like it is a differentiator on a personal level. Like, I was helping my dad do some research on some stuff recently and was just like, hey, ask your, he's like, hey, I want to craft a letter that talks about this, this, and this. And I'm like, tell it, do it. You can do it. And so like just helping each other as the world goes round and as we all evolve and grow, like we want to help people take whatever that logical next step is for them. And especially for the business owners, if you're going, hey, we've got a lot of data, we've got, we want to do more, we want to grow. Like, let's look for ways that you can take a step toward being AI ready, having the efficiency and or at least the consistency in systems and operational things that AI could really help streamline efficiency and help you go faster. I was talking to some folks in the construction space and the engineering space and professional services spaces. And those people oftentimes are responding to RFPs. And honestly, I think some people like had ChatGPT write their RFP request because sometimes I have, they're hard to understand. You're not exactly sure what they're looking for.
Right.
And we're talking about like, hey, is there a way that we could streamline your RFP response process so that you can have the opportunity to bid on more projects. That's real world right there.
Right.
If you can get in front of, hundreds of more projects and hundreds of more general contractors in your construction company, that could be super beneficial and relevant for you.
Yeah, I know we're getting close to time, but it does bring up a topic we can probably go over depending on people's schedule. I know we started a little bit late, probably with the delay, but what I will say is that there's always a question of how much of my work should AI do?
Yeah.
And this guy made a good framework to decide, which I'm not going to remember exactly what it was, but I think at a high level, when I think about how much it should do, I should say how much needs to be claimed as original, and versus not. So for example, if I'm sending out emails to prospect, it's okay if AI helps me write it or writes it if we believe tastefully it's good, for example, right? But if I'm writing a memoir or let's say a book or, a short novel or something that needs to show that it's originally me and I'm making it seem like it's not me, then that might be a different situation, right? And so I think if they have any opportunity, which honestly there's a lot, especially in our personal lives where I don't really care if it's me or AI. I just want to get this off my plate and move on. That's where people will continue to figure out how much of it or how little they decide to use.
And it's case by case basis. It depends upon the business you're in and all that.
Yeah.
For the last couple of minutes, can I ask you, is Highland Tech working on? Tell us about products. What are you fired up about right now within your business?
Yeah. So we recently launched a product called Electra, and Electra.
I wasn't sure if I could say it. So that's why I was like, tell me about the product.
Yeah. So we really target to right now physical security teams, because an industry I've been in for 14 years. But it can host custom agents. So basically what it is an AI agent operating system that solves a lot of the problems that we saw in custom development. When we set up a custom development, it could be between 5 to 7 accounts for a basic agent sometimes. So what that means is that the customer has to set those up. They got to add their credit card to each. We have to maintain access during the build process. If they want us to do the support afterwards, we have to maintain access to that. In addition, whether or not they decide to go with support or not is up to them, because it's optional. We're just a dev firm, right? But honestly, I think most of the time they need it, especially as they have this do portions of a function of a business when it's external facing, especially. You want a team to back you up. And hey, if this thing goes down, or if a connection to integration breaks or something like that. Yeah. So that's the second problem I noticed. The third problem I noticed is that there needs to be some visual data, right? Otherwise, it's a black box. The last thing you want, and we learned that early on, is you have an agent, you can't see what they're doing or have a way to evaluate it. Okay, it's moving some things around and automating some things, but it doesn't feel good. It's I have a job to manage this agent, which I didn't expect. Yeah. So you were trying to automate something, but then you actually got your time. You lost your time again because now you got to manage it. Yeah. So we were charging we had been charging $8,000 to $10,000 just for a front end dashboard. So there was that. And then the last problem was actually scoping out projects. Scoping out projects, I think, is almost as hard and possibly harder than building these things. Because a lot of it, if that's wrong, then the rest of it's wrong. And if we don't fully understand the process, then that's why we draw workflow diagrams. Then we might miss something in scope, whatever, right? And so, but that would take me an hour, sometimes up to 5 hours with clients on 1 to separate calls to basically build out all the things we need in order to quote something. So with all that said, these are 4 key problems we kept seeing in custom development. Is we just built an operating system to solve all of them.
Nice.
So the operating system we include support, right? There's a help center that's built in. It's got the infrastructure baseline. So when we add a custom agent, they don't have to set up all these accounts. We do it all. We have it all there, right? Wow. All they got to pay us is a subscription to manage it, right? And support it. And the other one is every agent gets a dashboard built in. So when we do custom, we charge for that, but they maintain ownership of the code. So if they were to leave, we just give them an offboarding, kit, and then the instructions on how to stand up the agent themselves, notwithstanding the dashboard, and they're good to go, right? And then the last one is we build a smart scoping agent that I can send anyone an invitation. They don't even have to be an existing customer, through a 20 to 30 minute conversation through voice or text, because it takes in voice too, is they'll go through our framework that we learned over the last year and a half as an agency about what are the key questions to ask in order to output a series of 4 detailed documents between business requirements, scope and use cases,
workflow diagram type stuff.
Workflow diagram, which is like what we call the happy path in software development, meaning that if it executes to this path, then we're all happy. And what they can do is they can download and keep it for themselves, or they press a button and they can request a quote from us, and we will build it and obviously host it inside of Electra. So that's the custom side. For the security industry, we built a ready-made agent that's for the low price of a subscription. Really no setup fees if we have the integrations already built. And right now we're in beta for that. So
what does that agent do?
Yep. So it's a customer success agent. So it takes in its inbound calls for sales and service primarily as fallbacks for any other type of need. And what it does is it intakes what we call respond, discover, and resolve. So respond is it's just going to respond to those 3 subscriptions. The first one is it just answers your calls, auto detects if it's sales or service. We'll also look and see if they're a system as an existing client. If they are, then it'll look at their last 30 days of activity to see what they're there for, if it's something the same or similar. And if it's similar, then it'll escalate them to a human, whether it's sales or a service manager. And then if it's new, then it'll create a new ticket and move on. And then if it's a sales side, what it's going to do is go through a sales discovery, do sales handoff, sales calendar scheduling. So literally we do a 3-way call to a seller that's assigned based on a decision rubric. We'll decide, who's the best seller for this type of customer that's calling in, and we'll just do a 3-way call. When it does it, it'll do a summary, warm transition to say like, hey, Adam's calling because he wants to buy some of this AI stuff. And here's his challenge, here's whatever, and then just drops the workflow. And if it doesn't reach the salesperson, it'll schedule in their calendar. On the service side, it does also service discovery, prioritizes the ticket based on the service information that it gets. It's enriched now. And then the real big unlock, all this is very helpful, is doing tier 1 support triage.
Yeah.
So tier 1 support is pretty common amongst like IoT type of devices, network connectivity, password issues, et cetera. And the idea, what we're talking about, is the potential to open and close a service ticket in one call, which is like amazing.
Sweet.
So so amongst all of that, what we saw in the feedback across like 80 some demos we've done up until now, including our beta customers, is that there's one number that I keep looking at, and it's a resolution number. So the agent, based on a lot of parameters like user sentiment, number of interruptions, rates the call it's got a different things of how it decides what percentage of these calls are getting resolved. And it's like 79%. So you're talking basically 8 out of 10 calls the agent's resolving, which is like awesome. And it's so much cheaper than you're talking like a couple of dollars for like an 8-minute call of potentially resolving a customer's problem. Yeah. So we can go to any industry, honestly.
Yeah.
But we want to build true class of digital workers. The only way you do that is if you niche down. So right now we do it for physical security integrators. We got to install cameras and electronic door access control. And then maybe next we'll hit up some other one. Yeah. So whether that's construction or something within the electrical field is most interesting to me right now.
That's awesome, man.
That's why we call it Electra. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah. Come to our live workshop. So that's my closing thought. That's it. So it's April 30th. It's at Voodoo Brewery in Roswell. James Rouse, the owner, is a great dude. He's a great host. So there, what we're going to do, obviously Adam will be there to help MC and guide, is we're going to be doing some live workshop hands-on stuff, primarily with a Google suite, but in all intents and purposes, a lot of other Microsoft can do kind of similar things. Is we're doing everything from like 3 things that use cases with AI assistants you didn't know about before you showed up, right? So something that's new, hopefully, and useful for everyone. The other one is being able to create your own AI workflows with the tools you have. So literally no code, like I automated all my expenses when they come in, they automatically go into a folder, but it detects it because not every email that comes through says invoice. It might have an attachment or whatever, to even building your own starter apps. So to me, if I was this is one of the things I'm super pumped about, is instead of PowerPoints, we might go into a world when you need to sell your idea internally, you just make an application for it.
Yeah.
Which is dope.
I mean, it's sweet.
Yeah.
I was on a presentation yesterday, and the guy did not create a PowerPoint. He vibe coded some thing and showed me like, here's a vibe coded calculator that I created that I could have showed you on a bunch of screenshots that were placed into a PowerPoint, but this just makes more sense. I'm like, this is sick.
And everybody can do it pretty much. I mean, it takes some work, getting used to, but that's like anything else.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Thanks so much for coming out, for hosting this, for allowing me to be part of it. I learn every time we hang out, and I'm just excited about this event we got coming up, and really would love for anybody that comes across this to join us. It's going to be a lot of fun.